Eshaun was scouring the internet before we got started. He got super excited about, I don't know if it's an article or it's a tweet or it's an Instagram post, something about Booker T and what he said about Tony Khan and the CM Punk situation in AEW. What is it?
Hey, look, you know how I love me some Booker T. I met the man, had a great interaction. We held up the line for about 20 minutes talking to each other. So anytime he chipes in on anything, I gotta see what Booker T talking about. See what the big OG got to say. And Booker T had a comment on the CM Punk AEW situation, just like everybody else. And so this is Booker T's statement. He said,
Tony Khan, he should have stepped in a little bit earlier, you know what I'm saying? If Tony Khan can't do it, sucky ducky quack quack, he should hire someone that can't do it.
No way did he say that.
It's not in the quote, but I feel like
okay, all right, okay, go ahead.
They took it out of it, right?
Proceed.
It's hard being the bad guy, especially when you're buddies with a lot of these guys.
Booker T continues.
Man, I would love to have that job over there in AEW with all that money and all that power. Giving all these guys positions other than just paying them to do the job, man, you got to do the job to the best of their ability, man. They totally messed everything up from the beginning, man.
Now, this second sound of Booker T sounds a lot better. That first impression, I was like, ooh.
Just like him.
But now that sounds like Booker T. Go ahead.
That's Booker T.
You know what? It's the man after every sentence. It'll be the man, and it's the, you know what I'm saying?
No, look, man. Tony Khan is not an actor per se, but Vince, man, my God, he was a really good actor. And that's what the difference is.
So it's just when I was listening to him talk, this is just Booker T in my head. But I mean, I think he's spot on, right? Like I said it a couple of times, and I think other people may have said it, that look, they got to hire some bad guys in that company. They got to hire some dirty workers to kind of nip this stuff in the bud. But yeah.
Or maybe not now that he's fired Punk. Let's see if that changes the backstage environment at all. Because it could.
Hey.
We don't know what they're doing with Jack Perry yet either. He just said that he's suspended indefinitely. So
hey, you know what
say,
though?
Okay, well, if Punk did that and he's willing to, move away from Punk, yes, it was after numerous altercations. Maybe that could be enough to where they know, like, all right, well, he is kind of serious about making this a much. I don't even want to say it's not professional because we're not back there.
No,
but you just hope that we're done hearing to the level that we've heard these backstage issues.
It got to be done.
Hey, but you know what though? We always talk about like maybe Tony Khan. Well, we didn't talk about that, but people said Tony Khan didn't have a backbone and he wasn't this guy. But he snapped back at some people, right? Your girl Big Swole, he came real heavy towards her, like right. Got her up out of there.
I don't think he went heavy at her. You could say what he said was disrespectful, but it wasn't heavy. Like heavy to me would be like matter of fact, foot down. I mean, he said like she can't wrestle basically.
Yeah, like you're bad at your job. I had to get rid of you.
Yeah. I don't know if that is coming across to me. Tony comes across as somebody that is a little too matter of fact when he shouldn't be a little too matter of fact. Maybe like he's still a great guy. He's a nice person, but like he said that I'm sure there was a little bit of ill will when he did say that about Swole.
Oh, it was a lot of ill will.
Yeah, but I don't think it was to completely assassinate her character and come across like a dick. I don't think it was that. I think it was he said what he said because he probably felt that way, but you don't say that.
And then what about
X-Town like that?
What about poor Leo Rush, right? Poor Leo stood up for her. A couple weeks later, he was off TV. Contract was up. We ain't seen him at AEW since.
Man, ain't Leo injured or retired again? We got to watch out for Leo. As much as I love me some Leo Rush, every single match he has, either he come out of it injured or he comes out of it retired.
Wait, he's in Impact now. Wasn't he at the show the last show you went to?
He wasn't there. Yep. So, hey, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there, and thoughts and prayers to all you guys that's listening. We appreciate you guys as always. This is episode 63 of the TFW podcast. That's Freakin' Wrestling. You guys have already heard from Eshaun with his Booker T impression, even though he wouldn't do the Tony Khan impression, but he wants to do the Booker T impression. So next time, man, do the Tony Khan. There's people out here who's probably
I did a
still
Tony
waiting.
Khan last week, right?
No, that wasn't the Darby Allin stomping when he comes out to let you know who's coming out for Dynamite. That wasn't screaming at the top of your lungs.
I ain't got the energy.
Thank you, Atlanta. You may get a pay-per-view type TK stuff. Rhodesia is in the house.
Yo.
Let's start with All Out because that was on Sunday. Eshaun, you just shared with us that you watched it over one of your family members' house. They're not typically wrestling fans. You had to leave early to get the kids in bed for school on Monday, which if you have kids, all of your kids should be in school now. So I'm sure you are jumping for joy. Everybody who's listening to this, let's go ahead and I want to hit like every air horn and gunshot and cheering, but we'll just do a couple of them. If you have children, they are out of your house now for a minimum of 7 hours during the day. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. They are back in school to get some education. But you were telling us that they were the typical you watch this stuff type fan. So I'm guessing there was nothing on that show that anybody walked away with and was like, you know what, I'm gonna tune into this starting next week.
Unfortunately not. There's a lot of jokes the entire time at the expense of these wrestlers. I mean, it was kind of hard to watch. I'll be honest with you, in a lot of ways it kind of took my enjoyment out of watching because they will point out certain things, and to be honest with you, I couldn't cover up for it. We as wrestling fans, sometimes we get what wrestling is, and we understand that certain things have to happen a certain type of way for things to go a certain way. Mm-hmm. And if you're not a fan, you're not as I won't say appreciative, but you don't give those kind of things slack. So when they see certain spots, I can't really argue and say, hey, you're wrong. I mean, technically you're not wrong, but it's just kind of like, man, it's kind of, dang, you're right. You're right. But the last match they saw was we'll get to it later, was the Bryan Danielson and Ricky Starks match. Was a hell of a contest.
I would say, as great as I thought All In was, All Out lapped it maybe 2 times over. That's how high I thought of All Out. And I thought maybe it was just me at one point because we're live, we're in the building. So I go on to social media and it's the same. People who are watching at home is just talking about how great the show is. I'm like, okay, it's coming across great. And at this point, this is about the middle of the show. This is right around Hobbs and Miro. And it seemed like after Ricky and Brian did their thing, that show went off to a whole nother gear. And we were off to the races. And that's one thing that, I'm never going to cut slack to bad wrestling TV because we spend so much time watching it. So AEW still has to figure out the storytelling on a week-to-week basis. But I think that they proved, maybe hopefully for the final time, that the pay-per-view is always going to be worth it. For them to pull off what they pulled off with the Punk drama, with All In being a week before, to do what they did on Sunday and put that product out there where, including me, was like, man, this show is absolutely missable. It was not, in terms of just the quality of that show. I know, Issa, you didn't get a chance to watch the entire thing. Rhodesia, we haven't really talked. We just talked about how much we enjoyed the show, but we didn't do comparisons or anything like that. How would you compare it to All In?
Oh, compared to All In, it blows All In out of the water. Again, I had to also take a step back and wonder if it's because we were there, we were live. Did it have anything to do with it? I know with one of the matches we'll talk about in a second, well, I'll just say it now, the Powerhouse Hobbs and Miro match. I think live, it was a lot better than what it was. I remember telling myself that this match itself probably felt like a C if I wanted to grade it, but just how over the crowd was and how much fun we had with that match. And it wasn't even a situation where we're stepping over the wrestlers. At times, we as wrestling fans could try to take the performance hostage and think that we're more over than what we are and try to do stupid chants and things like that. But in that match there, I think we were pretty funny. I thought we were pretty effing funny. But overall, I think this laps All In. Of the 10 matches that I actually took notes for, just because WrestleMania is WrestleMania, I'm going to have to just pull that out. And it had Roman Reigns and the Bloodline in there. This is my favorite pay-per-view PLE of the year. hands down.
There's a lot of people saying, I would have to kind of go back and live with it a little bit longer. There was a lot of people that were saying that they felt like this was the best AEW pay-per-view they've ever put on. They put on some fantastic ones, so I'm not ready to say that yet. But
I think I'm ready to say that. As far as, I mean,
it's up there.
It's hard for me to probably put something else above that. Like I said, just the Powerhouse Hobbs and Miro one, I didn't care so much for the match itself. That was my worst match, or my least favorite match, I should say. But overall, we had a surprise with Lana, which I didn't get to see. But you said that after she came out, Miro kind of played her to the side too.
And you know why you didn't get to see it? So Rhodesia, as soon as this match is over, right, she hightails it. I don't know if she went to the bathroom. I don't know if she went to concessions. She hightails it. She's out as soon as the match is over, right? Ding, ding, ding. So we get a little bit of the handshake and the shenanigans afterwards. And then on the big Trine, it shows Hot and Flexible. And I'm like, oh shit, is Rhodesia like debuting for AEW? She didn't tell me, and that's where she went.
Oh. Whoa!
Lana came out. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool too. All right, that's cool. And then Rhodesia came back. Like, what did I miss? I wanted to be like, oh, you mofo. The same way, like when I left WrestleMania weekend and Ricochet came out, and people were like, oh, is that what you had to go? I was like, I'm not Ricochet. Chill out. Enough.
Your timing was perfect, though. Your timing was absolutely perfect.
But with that Miro and Hobbs match, I wish you could go back and watch it. I think you were discounted a little bit. That match was actually arguably probably the best big man match in AEW history.
Okay.
AEW they don't know how to do big man matches. And if I'm trying to think, what other big man match where both were big men? We've had Wardlow matches that were great.
Probably Hobbs and Wardlow. I'm quite sure they went at it a few times.
This match cleared that.
Okay.
But no, I think it was exactly what Hobbs needed. Good. Exactly what he needed. So a lot of times with AEW, it's about to follow up. Mm-hmm. So we got to see how they follow up now with him. But he's in a really good spot right now. But yeah, I thought that match was great, and it came across well on TV. If you look at what people thought about it, and then it was cool to see, of course, Lana back. They say it's not a long-term thing with her; it's a short-term deal.
Yeah,
like they didn't even land on a name for her. So I did like their interaction. She comes out and Miro's like, "No, man," like, and he just like leaves shaking his head. So I did think that was really, really cool. Probably the biggest.
Hey, real quick, did you see what the internet was saying? Oh no, do not team Lana up with Hobbs. Another black man.
Oh, I mean, Bobby had a piece of it. You know what I mean? He had a piece of it. And that Miro ain't been the same since, actually.
Real.
Oh, that's what it was. The biggest thing that probably to me came out of that show, outside of like
everything,
work rate and things of that nature. Years ago, back in the 90s, Shawn Michaels lost his smile. Right? He got beat up at a bar. He didn't want to drop title on TV or whatever was going on. So he came out and cut a promo, and us as fans, and even now wrestlers talk about how he lost his smile. He gave his title up. I think Dean Douglas took the belt without, having a match. Mm-hmm. Now I know the Young Bucks have lost their smile for the last year, and they regained it this weekend. A completely different level of engagement, of match quality. And yes, they're in there with Bullet Club Gold and FTR. I get that. But if you didn't watch that match and come away feeling like, oh, got it, I don't know what to tell you. They have regained
real talk. Real talk. If we're going to jump to that match there, all I can say is they all had perfect synergy. All 8 of them. I loved every single one of them. I can't say equally, but there's times where you get a multi-man match and you might like say, oh, I don't care about that person, or I really, really love that person. Everybody in that match, I absolutely am engaged in with. I care about all of them. Like that match to me was, again, perfect synergy. And it started off with a nasty ass. I don't know, Eshaun, if you saw it or if they actually played it on air, that nasty ass chewed gum spot. Did y'all get to see that?
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't have. Yeah,
okay. Wouldn't have. Oh, that was just so disgusting. Oh my gosh. But overall, that match to me was absolutely incredible. We've seen a lot of the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks matches where like they'll do like their choreographed spots, like the 3 of them, like in the trios and kind of stuff. This time to see all 4 of them, all in like different parts of the corners, like it was again what we've seen already, but a level up, a step above. Overall, 2 thumbs up for that match. I mean, this whole card I absolutely loved. I'm grinning ear to ear.
I said on I guess Sunday's show, maybe in last week, I felt like this was that house show match where you put 8 of your bigger guys in the match and you just go out there and it's gonna be a great match. And that was what it was, probably maybe times 2. They did a fantastic job. Of course, the right team went over. Bullet Club Gold. I know there's some people out there who were not high on the Gun Club. Them boys got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They got it. They have arrived.
Mm-hmm.
They
were my real.
They add so much. Even when they got with Bullet Club, I was kind of like, or I think we even talked about it on the pod. We were kind of like, all right, that's cool. I guess plays off the name, but I really don't want them in Bullet Club because at that time, man, I wasn't checking for anything Bullet Club related anymore. I'm like, this is over. This is done with. They have changed my mind over the last 30 days or so. That group is one of the better acts in the entire company right now.
Yep.
So,
and that's somebody who I'm not a Jay White fan before, or in JPW, or even when he first debuted, I definitely wasn't a Jay White fan. I saw what y'all saw in him, how good he looked. Like he looked like $1 million. But just since Collision, and again, kudos to whomever is producing, booking Collision and storyline writing. I like Jay White. Like I said, everybody in that match, I was completely excited for. I didn't care who won or lost in that match, and it's 8 people.
He's beginning to come across as the star that I always knew that he could be on U.S. television. Of why I want him in WWE so much, because I'm like, this guy is already coming in. He should be an upper mid card guy to a main event guy in like 6 months. And we came in with the botched debut,
entrance,
and he comes in, and it's just like, this ain't it. But he's there now. He is there now. So I'm very excited to see that. E, you did say the last match you saw of the show before you had to leave was Starks and Bryan. So let me get some of your reaction to it. We know it was supposed to be Starks and Punk on top, main event. I don't want to be full of hyperbole and say it was a godsend that Punk got fired for Starks, because he has done Starks very well on Collision.
Right.
But watching that match, I just kept thinking to myself, this match is completely different if it's Punk and Starks. This match is completely different if it's Punk and Starks. Man, you know what? Starks wouldn't be coming across like this if it was Punk and Starks. What was your thoughts? I know you weren't really high on this show. They just changed and put Bryan in there a day before. So give me your thoughts on the match and just kind of what your perception was compared to what him and Punk may have had planned.
I can't say that I was surprised, because we know that Bryan Danielson is going to give anybody a great match. Right before he left and got injured, I mean, he was put on some classical guys, right? Big fan of his heel character. Ricky Starks is my guy. He's one of my guys. So I'm going to be hyped for anything that he does. And I think that Ricky showed up and showed out. I think that Ricky is starting to put people on notice about what he can do inside that ring. Because one thing, I learned after the match is that, Danielson said that he pretty much didn't use the injured arm. Right. So he wrestled the whole match with one arm.
I was watching. I even made a comment to them. They're probably about 80% in the match, and Bryan takes his first bump in the entire match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as soon as he bumped, I looked over to Matt Rhodesia. I was like, "That's his first bump." I was looking for that. He made a comment on the scrum, like, "I'm sure nobody noticed I didn't use my right arm. I didn't throw one strike." It's like, well, I did, because that's what I was looking for. Because for him to miss All In and then show up for All Out, I was like, I know you're not 100%. You would have been in All In,
right?
If you were. But yeah, to your point, yeah.
That's just how smart of a worker he is, and look, none of us are workers, right? But we know that you ain't got to do all these 1,000 things in order to get over in the match, right? If you're just smart and you know how to, work a crowd, man, you're definitely gonna get over. So for me, it was just another, like, I don't want to say proud papa moment, right? But I am older than Ricky. I guess maybe I am at this point, I guess. But he showed up and showed out and put people on notice. I just hope that this continues, I like the pairing with he and Big Cass, not his name. What is his name? Big Will?
Big
Bill.
Yep.
Big Bill. I like that. That Shawn Michaels Diesel type thing that they're going on. So I hope this is some positivity that keeps them moving forward. Now, as far as if the match would have been as good with Punk, now I've been on record, maybe not, that Punk isn't the same wrestler that he was 7 or 8 years ago, by far. Not in ring for me. But he's very smart. I think it would have been a different match. And so I think that Ricky would have did well with either contest. But definitely we got a great replacement in Bryan Danielson.
I think Ricky would have done well with either, but I think from the passion we even heard from him on Collision, he had something to prove. And I think it was more, maybe not even to everybody else, but there's something to prove to himself. And that translated in his match with Bryan. And Bryan is fantastic, arguably the best wrestler in the world. But to me, when I saw that match, and when you're talking about a strap match, you're so close. It reminds me of, I think it was the second Creed, when Michael B. Jordan was training down somewhere in a desert and they had to stay in the big tire. Do you remember that in the scene?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
you're not getting away from this fight. You're here. There's no playing around with this and that. And yeah, and I know in the beginning, he did a little tomfoolery, but the match itself was just so good. I think Ricky has something to prove to himself. I saw it. I think was a completely different match than what we would have had with Punk. I'm going to say much better because I was also privileged to be having this conversation now after seeing the scrum and what Bryan talked about in the scrum as well. So I kind of have that also in my back pocket now. But overall, Ricky really, really showed what he's made of. I think he elevated himself again, now technically wrestling to a new level. I remember a few weeks ago, I said on Collision, he put that rocket strap and went up a level in like mic skills and wrestling presence. This time he actually did it in technical skill for me.
He absolutely went up another level in that match. That finish, once again, I shit a lot out on AEW's production, a lot, but I got to give them kudos. And I didn't watch the show back, but I saw the clip. I posted it on Twitter a couple days ago. But the end sequence where he's being choked out and that camera work, they zoom in and Ricky looks right into the camera and he's saying no, and he just passes out. Incredible stuff, man. Goosebump worthy stuff for somebody that we've all wanted to like be something, and it will be start and stop push. I think we are starting and he is taking off. Bryan talked about it on the scrum. He is a huge Ricky Starks guy. And we also know now that Bryan is going to take that spot that CM Punk had on Collision as the top guy on that show. And we also know that he has Tony's ear when it comes to ideas and storylines. Yep. I think Ricky's going to be more than fine now. So I'm super happy for that. But I thought they were masterful for each other. I thought Ricky protected Bryan in a way that is commendable. And of course, Bryan just being in there with Ricky and doing some of the things that he did for him was fantastic. So absolutely love that. And then the match, we got to talk about the match I was most looking forward to. It was my main event. Kenny and Takeshita. That was outside of actually going to an NJPW show. We went to Ring of Honor, Card of Honor, a couple years ago when they were in Madison Square Garden, but never been to Japan. That match was probably the closest I would be to seeing a true, legit NJPW style match in person. Takeshita's got it. He's another one that I was like, man, is this too much too soon? This is a little bit ago before they really started putting the gears to him beating Kenny every time or getting one up on Kenny through, storylines and then the match at All In. At that point, he had already arrived. I knew that, he's the guy. He took another step and more than just storyline related. I said, hey, if Kenny puts him over, Takeshi's the main man.
If there's any question,
he is a main man. Now it's up to Tony, of course, to do right by him and make sure that we continue down that trajectory. But man, that match, for me, that match was a 5-star. Yeah, there wasn't anything more they could have done in that match to make that match better to me. I thought
was it match of the year?
No, because I still have Ospreay and Omega up there.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I just talked about Trish and Becky. It to me is up there in one of those huge matches. There, man, we are anybody who is listening to us on a weekly basis. I'm going to assume the majority of our fan base watches both AEW and WWE. If you are somebody that, for whatever reason, unless they did something morally wrong to you, if you are not watching both, you are absolutely doing yourself a disservice.
Especially if you're a wrestling fan.
Correct. We had Payback that either you looked at that show as at the lowest, above average to good, at the best, great on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we had All Out, which in all intents and purposes, anybody who watched it said it was fantastic. We are living in an incredible time period for wrestling. Yes. Watch both if you can. And I know it's a pay-per-view, but give, each a chance on their weekly TV. Because if you're not watching everything, you're missing out. That's not even including Impact with what they're doing with their women's division and, all that. You can miss NWA. I think nobody's really watching NWA.
But Titus is gone, so that helps.
He's out of here. He's out of here.
Oh, so I thought he just won. I thought he must have just lost. Then okay, that's what it was.
He's retired, right? He's retired. He's out. He's out of there.
And all 8 people in the crowd chanted "Thank you, Tyrus" to him when he was sitting there down on the cell trying to get some sympathy because he had to retire. So yeah, you're out of here, buddy. Go back to Fox.
Why did he have to retire?
Because that was a stipulation. Either
okay, got it.
Him or he retired. So he out of here.
You mentioned.
What you think about Takeshita and Kenny?
You mentioned that was your main event. Of course, that was my main event. That was the match I was looking the most forward to. The crowd knew that was the main event. And I know if I am having this recency bias right now, but I know if I go back and think about some of the big name matches, maybe the first Cena Rock, the once in a lifetime, maybe I can remember that intensity of excitement. But when that bell rang and they got in the ring, just the electricity in the crowd of them just ready to see because we all knew we were about to see something beautiful happen. And just the energy off of that alone. And from the moment that they start, incredible. Again, I would put also Omega and Will Ospreay match ahead of this one. But it was just a different feel. And I think the story of this is a little bit different too. Overall, 2 thumbs up. Takeshita is a made man. That nasty ass exposed knee V trigger at the end for the win. Absolutely sick. It's something about the V triggers that is associated with KO. I mean, that was probably one of the reasons why I actually liked NJPW when I first started watching it years ago. Was like, oh my god, like you are still alive and not knocked out and concussed with these V triggers. Like to me, it's something about that. And he took them just as much as he gave them. He took them overall. My favorite match of the night.
If I don't see Kenny and the Bucks in a trios match until 2025, I am completely fine with it. Keep Kenny completely away from the Bucks because it is a different animal. When Kenny is in the singles competition and he's working at his level, I really feel like he dumbs himself down when 100%. He is working with the Bucks almost in every match for the most part, unless they're working like Lucha Brothers or something like that. It's a different feel. Like he is a star. And that would be like Roman always tagging with the Usos or Cody always tagging with Seth or LA Knight. No, he needs to be in his own pocket in a singles lane. And that's what you were feeling, Rhodesia. In the crowd was, we don't get many Kenny singles matches for whatever reason. And we know every single time he knocks it out of the park. Keep them away, man, until 2025.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point as far as he's a different person. And I think it's more of he doesn't want to outshine somebody. But when you're dimming your own light, it's not doing anybody a good service. Everyone's being disserviced by you dumbing or not letting your light shine as bright as it can. Because again, it was just electrifying, so beautiful to see. And that's why I did hesitate for a second and say that was absolutely my favorite match of the night. It still is, but there was another one that really rivaled it. Again, just because of all of the emotions that was involved in that.
And which match was that?
We know it. The other real main event.
Man, oh man.
I could cry if I could.
Orange. Let me get you some Orange. Orange Cassidy. Sir, you done well. You done your job, sir. You absolutely showed up and showed out. You showed up and showed out this entire year.
Mhm.
But we know he's never had a main event spot in AEW on a pay-per-view. Moxley has. Every time Punk spazzes out, they throw Moxley in the main
Yeah.
event. Like, look,
Yep.
man, sorry. You're on top again, Mox. What I love so much about that match is go back to Saturday's Collision where Moxley cuts that promo. He basically tells you the story of the match, what it's going to be. You're going to get beat down. You're going to want to quit. I'm taking you to the deep end. Like, he's giving it to you. And I remember watching, and I'm like, damn, I think Orange is going to beat Mox.
I did too.
Even though I know that makes no sense.
Yep.
Because the promo was so good from I don't even want to say like a healer's perspective, but he's telling you what I'm going to do to you. And this, everybody loves Orange Cassidy. And I'm going to just take everything from you, and then I'm taking your title. And I was like, damn, that was so matter of fact. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. But then I'm like, if Orange Cassidy beats Moxley, there ain't nobody left. That makes sense. Every single match he's been in recently, he's getting hurt more and more and more. This man has worked, 3 matches in a week's time span. Moxley is the guy in AEW. He's got to win. And that was the way the match really kind of came across. Mox dominated Orange Cassidy throughout the match. And probably my favorite part in the entire match, besides some of the false finishes, he kicked out a one Death Rider. It was right toward the end. And Orange Cassidy starts to do the light kicks. Oh. And I looked at Matt, and I was like, this ain't the time for that. Like, what is this?
And what happened?
And as soon as I said that, he started kicking him for real, kicking Moxley for real, and going at him. And that he's never done that before. And I was like, you talk about, this is where the storytelling comes into it. You talk about storytelling. At that moment, this is not a game to me. I'm trying to defeat you. And it wasn't enough. And then Moxley hits him with the one Death Rider. He kicks out, and Moxley does the sign of the cross. And he's kind of shaking his head just like, I'm going to have to kill this guy.
I didn't peep the sign of the cross.
Yep. And I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and kill him. Hits him with another Death Rider around his neck. And that was it. It wasn't no shenanigans. It was a incredibly told story. And with everything we saw at All Out, All Out, it was absolutely the match that should have main evented.
Absolutely.
I loved it. Yep.
It was not mad about the placement of the match. It just goes back, like, in my head. I remember seeing Orange Cassidy in New York at WrestleCon, so whatever WrestleMania that was 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm just like, there is no way in hell that this dude who is this gimmicky can even amount to anything. Although I was highly entertained, but just to see that growth on the national stage from then till now, he deserves all the flowers that he's going to get this year. No one could argue with anybody who says that Orange is their wrestler of the year. No one can argue that. Just overall, I was so happy to be there. And like I said, if I could have cried, I would have cried.
What's next for Orange?
A month vacation.
Do you guys want to see him in a rematch to try to get his belt back? What do you want to see from him?
Right now, just go on vacation. Take a Jey vacation.
I think the smart thing will be that he stays off TV for a little while, because it's good sometimes to get that reset. I've said it for a couple guys, but I think sometimes after, especially a baby face, once they lose, sometimes it's good to get them off TV to kind of allow their character to kind of refresh. And so when they come back, they get like that huge pop, and they can begin that next journey. But one thing I don't remember we talked about it last week or not, but I heard the promo again this weekend was Orange Cassidy cut a freaking promo.
Yeah, on Dynamite.
Right.
You talking about the go home promo, right, on Dynamite?
Right. Yeah, I heard it again, and I was like, man, like, it was a passionate, powerful promo from a guy who doesn't really talk, right? He always kind of comes off like this nonchalant guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. You want a championship match? Okay, cool. All right, But this one, he has to show some fire, and she shows some like he wants this, right? Like he actually cares about something, right? And then when I listened to Mox and his promo, I kind of felt like he was telling me what was going to happen. And I knew he was losing, because it kind of makes sense in a way for Orange to lose. And I felt like he was telling me the story. So like a lot of times, like the babyface, when they tell you that they're going to win, you know they're going to win, right? Because you don't want your babyface to come. But in Mox is a heel, but in a lot of ways, he doesn't lie. So he's telling everybody what he's going to do, and he did it. So for me, my question, and I think you guys have already kind of are at peace with Orange losing. I'm like, man, is it really the right time for Orange to lose? And is Mox the right guy? Because like Mox comes back to these high profile title situations quite often. Like we've seen it, right? I don't know what new can be seen with him as champion, but we definitely had a different champion with Orange Cassidy versus, let's say, MJF. Like, right? Not saying MJF is a bad champion,
right?
But definitely Orange is like that workman. He's that old IC champion, almost times 5. I don't think even the IC champion was defending as much as this man has been doing in these high profile matches. So, are you guys at peace with the decision?
Absolutely. I thought Orange should have lost his title. Was at Double or Nothing? I think was when I wanted him to drop it, just because how much he worked this whole year. And then now I see what has happened even after that. And it's just like, yeah, now on Collision, it was Collision when Moxley went off on him, right? Collision or Dynamite, whatever, this past week. I did think too, like, oh my God, Orange is not going to lose. But it just made sense. He comes out and says, I'm tired. Like he's saying that he's tired. There should be no reason why Moxley should have lost against Orange unless there was some crazy tomfoolery into it. And then who else would have been able to take it from him? So I was completely at peace with Orange losing it. I'm actually kind of happy he lost it to Mox. And you're right, Mox is constantly getting himself back to these high profile matches, but that just speaks to him and his ability to be so over to the crowd. So that's
and it's
I'm
funny.
proud of him.
We're talking about the international championship like it's the world title, and that's what Orange Cassidy did single handedly.
Yep.
Of course, along with the booking, but he made that title.
He made that title
relevant. So to answer your question, for me, yes, in a perfect Skittles and rainbows, everything is beautiful world. No, I would have rather had Orange Cassidy win and then drop it in a couple weeks. In a perfect just osmosis for Orange Cassidy. But you have Stadium Stampede on Sunday. You had Penta on Wednesday. You ain't getting through Moxley on a Sunday. You know, so like it was like they set him up.
Taped up. Did you see his whole
back?
back?
They set him up perfectly to protect him.
Yep.
For losing it when he did. All I hope for is tonight on Dynamite, the first thing we hear is Orange Cassidy's music and he wrestles again. I hope that
I'll be
does
pissed.
not happen.
I'll be pissed.
I would be livid.
I would be like
on Sunday, heads are going to roll Tony Khan on this show if we see Orange Cassidy wrestling at all on Dynamite.
I better not even hear. I better not even hear a color name on this Dynamite. Orange Cassidy, I better not see him for at least 2 weeks. And I ain't talking about like those Moxley vacations that he actually never takes. No, I don't want to see Orange Cassidy at all.
I was on Twitter a few days ago. Of course, they were in Chicago the entire week. So Mox was on Dynamite on Wednesday. He shows up to one of the indie promotions on Thursday in Chicago. And the person that posted it was just like, look, y'all talking about Moxley needs a vacation. No, this MFer loves this. He's showing up to indie shows on his day off.
He's wrestling.
Like, you know what? He did a run in and kind of that whole thing. But the point is, you don't have to do that. So all right, so I am done telling Mox to take a vacation. Evidently, well, I can say evidently, we know he loves it. I don't have anything else to deep dive on the show. I do have a couple of just other points. MJF and Samoa Joe, I am here for it. We're going to hear from MJF tonight on Dynamite. I love this. And another thing I love too, and not to say that I think Joe and Punk was done, but it feels like this is the first time that they've course corrected this quick whenever something's happened. Starks is completely okay now. Jay White and Bullet Club, completely okay. FTR, completely okay. Once again, I think Joe and Punk was done, but we're moving on to Joe and MJF, which I think everybody wants to see that. And the tag match was fun for what it was. We knew that Dark Order had no chance. that was, a match that the crowd absolutely loved live in person. Who knows where this whole Adam Cole MJF thing goes at the end of it, but I can tell you that the crowd is 1000% bought in and behind MJF.
I'm going to kind of take back what I said and said that they should have never brought CM Punk back. If getting CM Punk back gave us in birth Collision, Ricky Starks, that's as hot as fish grease, Joe MJF, and just laid a foundation of a bright light of AEW, then you know what? Then it was worth it. No, I don't think all of this extra drama behind the scenes was necessary. But if at the end of the day, this is what got us the Collision and kind of just that frame of thinking of how to build a wrestler, how to book a match, how to produce a show, I'm completely fine with that. Because you're right, we wouldn't have probably gotten Ricky Starks without him being his like a protege to CM Punk. We probably wouldn't have got anything like that. So I'm gonna take that back. I think it was worth bringing Punk back if this is what we got out of it. It's a net positive.
One of the matches that you said you were most excited for last week was Darby and Luchasaurus. Did it hit you in the feel good spot?
Hey guys, how's everyone's father doing today?
Hey, and shout out to Christian. He said he re-signed a long-term deal. I don't know if he said long-term, but he re-signed with AEW.
He said that Tony broke the bank for him.
All right, so then real quick, and then of course I want you to talk about that match after this. How does that change your guys' percentages of if Edge shows up in AEW or not?
I give it a little bit more, but it was more so of Punk leaving or getting fired more so than Christian re-signing.
Christian doesn't talk about anyone outside of the company. He also doesn't have friends outside of Luchasaurus. I gotta be honest. I'm always honest. I gotta stop saying that. That's when my thing. I'm gonna write on a note. Stop saying I'm gonna be honest.
Stop saying I'm gonna be honest.
Just stop saying it. I don't care if Edge comes.
You don't.
I don't. And so, I'm open to being surprised if he does come. But I'm not into it.
Wow.
Yeah,
I thought you said you wanted him to come. Did I misunderstand that, or was that more of you, Matt?
I absolutely want him coming. I like. I want him coming, and not really, not like that. Take that out.
Pause.
Take that back, baby.
Pause.
That's hilarious. No, but I'm all for people flip flopping. Like I want CM Punk in WWE 100%. It would give us some incredible content on TV and backstage and for our show, but to be able to see Punk, Cody, Punk, Roman, Punk, Seth, there are so many awesome programs. Heyman and Punk, there are so many awesome programs we can get on WWE. Edge and AEW, yes. Give me a story of him and Christian one last time tag teaming against FTR, first time ever. Young Bucks, first time ever. Hardy Boys, last time ever. Hell, get the Dudleys and let's do their final ever TLC match. Made them in a major show. There is so much they can do with that, with Edge. I'm all for it. I want everybody flip-flopping. Warlow, whenever he comes back, I want him coming back just so he can go to WWE.
I'll take that.
You know what I mean?
I'm with the flip-flop too, because I think it'll rejuvenate some careers and some characters.
Yes.
Because like these guys, a guy signs a 6-year deal with AEW, we clap and we don't see him on TV half the time. Or same thing with WWE. These guys re-up their contracts just to be in the same position. And so I think if I was going to say Ricochet, he's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know how you'll fare in AEW, but it's worth a shot, right? But yeah, no, like the match itself, I enjoyed the match. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I'm glad that Luchasaurus won, so I can continue to see Christian parade around with that championship like it's his own. I love it because at the same time, much as you guys said about Orange Cassidy, like I feel like Darby Allin should be tired. This man he has
a feud on Dynamite. He has a feud on Collision. He got a feud on Rampage.
Yep.
They resurrected Dark, and he had a feud on that one. He's been all over the place, man. There's no way that he can stand up to the right hand of destruction. So that's exactly what I want.
Even with my boy Nick Wayne out there, Nick Wayne's over with the fans. But
You
that
like
match
him?
was
Like Nick Wayne.
I do like Nick Wayne. Yep. That match was better than I thought. I didn't think it was going to suck, but it was really, really entertaining.
Lucha did not have to be so aggressive to Darby, though. Tombstones, and then the forward buckle bomb into the turnbuckle. What? Yeah. Again, that's when I would go get my proverbial bat and knock him upside his head. Like, dude, Luchasaurus was way too hard on him. But what you were saying, Eshaun, about Darby, I'm actually getting to a point, and this is in all love, like, I'm tired of seeing Darby in these matches because I just feel like he's hurting his body so much. At what expense? Well, for us wrestling fans, like, I'm so tired of him doing all. To put it in perspective, I think I took a swig of my drink at the beginning of the match. I look up and all I see is upside down feet in the air when Luchasaurus threw Darby. I was just like, what's that? And Matt was like, oh, that's his feet. And like, I just looked down for a second. Like, that's what I'm like, he's constantly getting these beat. The difference with like Orange is like his body, like the wear and tear, of the body slowly, not fully recovering. No, Darby isn't like in a blunt force car accident, like you said, on all these shows every week. I'm tired of seeing that.
Nick Wayne's got his back though. Don't you worry. Nick Wayne's going to take care of him.
He will.
I would never not say that his whole name is funny to me. I would never call him Nick. I would never call him Wayne. He is Nick Wayne to me until eternity.
Nick Wayne.
I wonder how Darby would be once he's more of a veteran, like, because at some point he has to change his style, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like his style is what brought him to the dance. Mm-hmm. So I wonder what he would change about the way he wrestles.
Probably nothing.
Longevity to his kind.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's much, man, to be completely honest with you, because it's not like he's working weekly. He should be smarter about the big bumps that he takes. Like, I don't have a problem with any of the bumps he takes because that's just what he does. Mm. But if he was telling the story before All Out that his back is jacked up, I don't know if that was storyline to kind of have a weakness going into the match. But he talked about he landed on the coffin twice in an All-In match. You don't need to do that.
Nope.
Like, you know what I mean? So like, I don't need you changing anything about your style, but just the big bumps. Do it once every big match.
But I
don't need to see you doing a major bump like that 3 or 4 times in one match.
But you think about it, even wrestling once a week, just what he does in that match, that once a week. You think about us. If you think about if we landed on our back like that, just once, like, man, I'm out for the rest of the month. Like, right?
He also likes that style too, though.
I mean, I know he likes it, but does his body like it? You know what I mean? Like, is his body going to like it?
5 years, right?
Exactly, in 5 years. Yeah.
So that was everything from All Out. Rhodesia, you got anything else before I hit a couple of? Actually, just one more point about AEW. We can move on to Raw.
Just the only thing that I would say that was like that fell flat for me was, and also I must say it's always a treat and a blessing to see him wrestle. But the tag match with Eddie, Shibata, Claudio, and Willer, again, no different than I think regular Dynamite Rampage Collision match we would have saw. They probably could have kept that match for me. It just didn't do nothing for me for the card. But anytime we see Shibata, it's a blessing. But that was it.
Yeah, because we should never see him wrestling. That man was almost dead.
Yeah,
it was it was fine. The placement was just in the wrong spot. They placed it.
Maybe that could have been what it is too. Oh, and I must say, I never once. This is like a first. Never once almost fell asleep in a wrestling match. A wrestling pay-per-view. It was like 13 matches, right?
No, you mean wrestling show.
Wrestling show.
It could have been a 1 hour Superstars tapings and you would
I still would have fell asleep. And that's how I know that this is, like I said, I kind of got to take WrestleMania out of it. One, because it's 2 nights and you had the bloodline in it. But this is my favorite PLE pay-per-view of the year. I never once got sleepy.
I got to ask you guys a question about All Out. And we talked about the build being lackluster and how are they going to get to this moment. And, a lot of people were saying, show of the year, right? And it pretty much came together really within 24 hours of the show. And we always talk about, characters and stories. That's why we're into wrestling. I think for me as a fan, and I think I've said it before, but I'm really going to get back to it when I judge AEW and kind of Tony Khan's vision for wrestling, is that I think he truly understands his fan base and what exactly they want. With AEW, it is about the matches. It is about the moves. It's not always about the characters and the storylines with them. Because at the end of the day, and I think Tony said it during the scrum, like his pay-per-views always work out. And we always say after the show, it's one of the best shows.
Yeah.
The next show is the best show, was better than the last. And the last show had less build than the last. It had less story than the last. But every show is always another great show because that's what his fan base wants. It's not all about the characters and the story, not in the way that we know it, right? Because they tell stories differently than like a WWE and wrestling shows did in the past. Because you think about New Japan, a lot of their wrestling is told in the match. Right? And I think that's his vision for wrestling. And I think that much like for me, this is personally for me as a fan, I started like understanding like Vince McMahon has a vision for wrestling that works for his fan base. And I think that Tony Khan has a vision for wrestling that certainly works for his fan base. Right. So I think that when we go into the next pay-per-view and we say, oh, the build wasn't this, and the match came together like, 2 hours before the show. Tony knows what his fan base wants. He's excellent at putting together a match card, right? He does it almost perfectly. So I think just going forward, I think that, we just got to put that to bed. Like, look, let Tony cook. He knows what he's doing, and he gives his fans exactly what they want.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to let him off the hook for the weekly misses where we're like, what was that about? Why did we do that when we could have done that? I think you're right about he knows what his fan base wants. He talked about All Out is going to be eclipsing 100,000 buys. That's like $5 million gross coming off of 200,000 buys for, so that's a ton of money.
He's
if
making
you think
money.
about it. But there is still an opportunity because tonight's Dynamite show, they're not going to have 3,000 people in the building. Last I checked, I think they've sold 2,600 tickets. Wednesday's Dynamite here in Chicago last week, 4,400 people or whatever. Collision, 5,000 people. So there is still an opportunity. I understand what you're saying. And I think for us as fans, we want them to grow. Like, we want you to grow. And when we can watch and feel like, hey, I have better ideas than what I'm seeing on TV. And we always feel that way regardless. Anything, right? If you're a football fan, Monday morning quarterback, basketball, hey, oh man, why didn't they call this play? Because blah, blah, blah. So I get that part of it too. But I think a lot of times we're onto something when it comes to AEW and the creative. And we know we're onto something. Think about Collision. Collision is outside of SmackDown typically as close to a wrestling show that I want as possible. But to your point, there's somebody who can argue that Dynamite is everything they want in a wrestling show, and that's it.
I was going to say that, yeah.
And we're good to go. Yeah, so I do want, yes, to your point about that. Yes, we do need to, the whole thing of, hey, is this AEW pay-per-view going to be good? Probably needs to go away. But there's still going to be a lot of conversations around, hey, what about the weekly stories? That is where they got to figure out so they can start getting back to when they go to these different markets, always exceeding or at least meeting what they did last time. It's the stories, i.e. MJF, Adam Cole, i.e. what Punk was doing, so I think that's really where they have to kind of really stick to it. And we'll see tonight. Starting tonight, we'll see. And especially with them having Wrestle Dream in October, we don't have to wait until Full Gear in November. So now they're going to have Wrestle Dream. They're going to have Full Gear. And as of right now, that's all from a pay-per-view perspective until Revolution next year. So let's see how TV looks when now they're working off these 4-week pay-per-view cycles for the next 2 months. Last thing I have for AEW, I just wanted to share a quick story that I saw. So Starrcast was this past weekend. If you guys don't know, Starrcast is where you can go meet and greet wrestlers, things of that nature. And Dennis Rodman was there on Saturday for meet and greets. So I
he
guess
was
gets
somebody to
into-
meet and greet.
Yeah,
Like you could meet and greet him. Okay.
Yep. So I guess he gets in Friday evening, and he's at the same hotel. You guys know where it's at in Hoffman Estate, same hotel we stayed at for the first Starrcast. I guess when he shows up, bar's closed.
Oh no.
Now, if you guys don't know, I'm sure you do know, they say Dennis Rodman can like drink all day and all night. And when he was playing basketball, be back up at practice at 30 minutes later, like he got 8 hours of sleep. He's always been like that. So I guess, of course, he's not used to bars closing by the time he gets to the hotel. They say he jumped the bar.
Oh my gosh.
Grabbed a bottle of liquor.
Oh my gosh.
Took it up to his room.
Oh my gosh.
So Conrad, who of course does, he owns Starrcast and does all that. I guess he calls down. He hears about it. He calls the front desk or whoever Saturday morning, just say, "Hey, heard Rodman, took a bottle of, liquor to his room. Are we gonna have any issues?" And whoever he talked to, the woman said, "Not at all. It's Dennis Rodman in Chicago. Let us know if he needs another bottle sent to his room."
Oh, wonderful.
I said, shout out to the Worm. You could tell he was really happy to be back in United Center. He said that was his first time in like 13 years or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So shout out to Robin. He's always a Detroit Piston to me first and
I was gonna say that.
But when I think about, I think he spent more time in the Spurs than he did the Pistons. He definitely spent more time with Chicago than he did Detroit. So I guess,
but he got on the map because of the Detroit Pistons, though. He got on the map.
Wait a minute, he spent more time with the Spurs. He's only with the Spurs for a year and a half or something like that, right? He wasn't with them that long.
How long was he with Detroit? He was with us through the back-and-back championships.
Yeah.
The year
and
before,
afterwards,
right? So 3 years?
4 years. 4 years.
Okay, so 4. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the Worm.
Hey, it's really nice to be paid, have money. Like, right? Because, hey, let me tell you, Big Daddy can't jump behind the bar and take a bottle up to the hotel.
You wouldn't make it to your room by then.
Man,
I got you.
Big Daddy.
Nobody could do that. Besides, if you got clout with your name. So there
it's
you go.
Big Daddy in Chicago. No, I ain't getting that.
They'd be like, yeah, you better figure out, call somebody when you get your phone call for being in jail, that holding cell.
Your one phone call, right?
Let's move on to WWE. I guess now it is official. Fit Gunther is better than, he's better than Fat Walter. It is official now. As of in 2 nights, he would have eclipsed Honky Tonk Man as the top longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. That's a big deal when we say it a lot, when this man was on the outs with Vince McMahon, but even in this time frame, and that's him doing that and being on TV damn near weekly. It's a little bit different than what Roman did, where he's taking months off at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I love me some Roman, but it's a different feel to it when he's there and he's defending that title. He's in storylines consistently, et cetera, et cetera. Chad Gable, man, at the end of that match, the entire match, if you guys don't know, go on YouTube. They put the entire match up commercial free, which is great because they butchered, I don't know, the time cues were off or what, but they had 2 commercial breaks in like a span of 10 minutes in that match. Completely took the flow of that match away. But the last 5 minutes, particularly those last 2 minutes, were killer. We have to get them now at October's pay-per-view, right?
Absolutely.
Don't we have to run this back?
Absolutely.
One last time?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I literally wrote down the spots of Gable's final little push. Superplex, head splash, ankle lock, taunt into the Chaos Theory. All of that in a matter of probably 35 seconds to only get suplex on the top of his head and then lariat clothesline for Gunther to win. At the end of that match, you look at Gunther and you see in his eyes, like, not impressed, not, oh, I beat you or I barely won. It was like respect.
No, I'll tell you the look he had.
What did he have?
Look he had was, damn, I barely beat him.
Okay, then you can say that
was
too.
The look he had.
But that's still part of respect. I still could respect that though. I can consider that as respect because shit, I almost lost. But that was the look, and that's when I was like, yes, it's not over. When he shot that look and they shot it that way, I'm like,
okay, give this to us. I said on Twitter, give me this an Iron Man match. It don't have to be 60 minutes. Give me 30 minutes and have Chad take that title off of him.
And this was to the point about the 2 commercial breaks. And I always go back even to Blood and Guts when it was back in Detroit last year. I felt like I missed so much from that match from what you had told me because you were there live because of those commercial breaks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was in picture. It's still just not the same. You hear Wingstop commercials all over here. It's still just not the same. But that to me, it looked like and felt like that should have been a pay-per-view match. What we saw last on Raw. But overall, give me that on the biggest stage that you can, as soon as you can, having his daughter, his family there with that extra emotional string pulling. Loved it. Loved all of it.
And them poor little girls out there crying. But no, that look, I got the same thing from that look that Matt got.
Yep.
Like, to me, he looked back kind of like, what the right? Like, right? Like he almost couldn't believe it. But, I thought about at the end of the match is that, like, how did they get back to him getting another shot? I mean, he done lost to him twice.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought about. And that's why I was like, man, is it over? But then,
and this was a clean loss too.
It was clean.
It was no clean, interference. Like squeaky.
So to both of all 3 of our points, what if it then is Gunther's suggestion? Hey, I didn't feel comfortable about that win.
No,
I've already won. I've been the longest reigning IC champion since the last 44 years that it's been out. I'm cemented in my legacy. No, I want that back.
He would sound like he would be dumb as hell if he did that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He wouldn't do that.
He has integrity.
No, but he also almost lost. He's not going to do that because he beat him clean. It wasn't like there was any interference from Imperium.
So why have that look?
So why have that look? Something. What do you mean? Because he knew he almost lost. And he's never almost lost his title. That's why.
And that tells a story. I remember when I was talking to you guys when this whole thing was starting, is that Chad went from like a joke, right? He was the funny guy, thank you guy. He was very entertaining, and I told him like, hey, this is all about making him a serious contender for the championship and just in general, right? And I think he cemented himself to that, right? And I think he cemented this to Gunther, right? Mm-hmm. So I actually just thought about this as we've been talking. I'm like, what if they do another tournament or eliminator that Tony Khan likes to do, right? They do another eliminator tournament, right? And Chad's in that, right? And he has banger match after banger match after banger match, and he wins another right to challenge Gunther to the championship, right? Now, right? So now he's earned another opportunity, right? He wasn't given an opportunity, right? He earned another opportunity, right? He's had, 4-star matches, whatever the case, because it'll be great on Raw, because they'll give him time to have these matches with these individuals, whoever they may be, right? And then he finally gets to Gunther again, and now Gunther is concerned because he barely won the last time they fought, like, right? And Chad can tell the story of like, hey, I just need a couple more minutes. I know your weak spots. The next time I see you in the ring, I got you. Like, right? And Gunther feels that. So maybe that's the way it can go.
Chad cut an incredible promo just on .com after the match in the locker room, basically saying, you made my daughters cry. Like, I'm done with this. And he said, I swear to God, I'm taking that title. Mm-hmm. We take that literal in the black community. You say swear to God, you better not lie. Because you're going to hell if you say swear to God. So when he said that, I was like, oh, okay. All right, Chad gonna win it. Chad gonna win it for everybody. So yeah, I don't think it's over at all, which, man, kudos to them. I thought they did an awesome job throughout the show, the thread of how important the IC championship and title was, showing the old pictures of, the lineage of that title.
Loved it.
Yep. First time in a long time. Well, Triple H has done a pretty good job with the IC belt, but this is what we kind of been begging for years. Anybody who's been an old school fan that remembered Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude, that time period with the IC belt, Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, when it was, okay, you're the IC champ, then you are the workhorse of that. And then when you lose it, now you're moving on to the world title. That was not that for the last, 10, 15 years.
No. But in perspective, my first affection with the IC championship was with Dolph Ziggler. And then not again since Gunther. So
That's
just to
crazy
put
talk.
that in perspective,
Yep.
and I've been watching wrestling for over 20 plus years. The
Yep,
IC
so-
didn't
I gotta
really
be-
matter.
I gotta be honest. Even when Ziggler had the championship, then it didn't mean as much as it does now.
Of
I want
course
to say
not.
like the last
course not.
time. I think we might have to go back almost 30 years since last time the IC title was treated with this kind of respect. It might have been maybe. I don't think it was even treated this much respect in the Attitude Era.
No, it wasn't.
Right.
I started watching toward the end of the Attitude Era, and it was I couldn't even tell you who held it.
When H and Rock were fighting for it, it was pretty prestigious. And that was 97 ish.
Before I started
Right
watching.
around there. Yeah. It was pretty prestigious, but
Because it was
Of
those
course.
two guys, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, 'cause
but
it was
hey,
those two guys.
he's taking Honky's title reign. So we know like it hasn't been treated with this in terms of somebody who's held it for, however long that is. So shout out to them. Loved it. Jay's first night on Raw. What'd you
Hey,
guys think?
pause on that real quick. It just popped in. I'm gonna forget. While we're staying on the IC championship, and we just talked about the international championship. So you had Orange Cassidy, really made this championship, right? Like he really made that international championship what it is today. Hopefully John Moxley can continue that. But Gunther has really rejuvenated, as we just got finished saying, the IC championship. Who's had the better reign? Right? Of course, Gunther's championship is still going, but who's had the better reign up until that point? Orange Cassidy or Gunther?
This is not a question for me. It's absolutely Orange Cassidy. It was a championship that didn't exist prior. At least with the IC belt, it's been around for 44 years. At some points in life and in time, this championship was held to higher standards. To me, it was originally with not the North American Championship. What was it originally called when Orange
Which one?
got it? The International Championship.
No, All Atlantic.
It was originally All Atlantic, and then it switched to International. He put the championship on the map. So to me, I could see the parallels, and great question, because I think that's a really great parallel. But to me, the International Championship exists because of Orange Cassidy. It is not the same for me when it comes to the IC and Gunther.
Man, but you're talking about how long has he had the title for?
Well, who is
8
he?
months?
Orange?
Yeah, we talking 8 months, 7 months?
At the end of
9
November?
months?
Was it the end of November? Or
I can't remember. So you're talking a 10-month reign compared to a year and a half worth reign. Man, that's a great question, because like you want to say Orange because we're into that story. Oh man, 22-0 in the last few months, and he's starting every Dynamite off. If you're talking about who had a better reign, I'm going to say that Gunther has had a better reign. Whose reign was more important is Orange Cassidy's.
I'm fair with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's fair statement there. I agree.
Who would you say?
I honestly didn't have an answer to it when I asked you guys, because I thought, because as we just said, like Orange has really made that title important. And in a promotion to where they have so many titles that most of them aren't important, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, Gunther has really made that IC championship important. Till the last memorable champions or series of championship matches we remember from the IC is back in the late 90s. That was a long ass time ago, right? So for him to, here it is, the eclipse the Honky Tonk Man, coming forward and make that championship mean something on a promotion to where another promotion where championships didn't really mean a lot. Like, right, you got Roman, whose championship is more like a crown than a championship at this point, and you got a new champion in Seth. Arguably Gunther might be the most defending and winningest champion that they have right now. Gosh, I don't really know, because you know what? I kind of feel like this, and we can come back to it, because I feel like what happens during Moxley's reign? Does the championship still have that same
prestige,
swagger and prestigious as when Moxley has it? What happens to the IC championship when Gunther and eventually losing the championship? Like, right, did they do enough to really make that title mean something for the next champion and for the next series of matches? Maybe that might be the answer, or maybe not.
So yes, Punk is gone, and Punk was, like, say, he was supposed to work the main event with Starks. but we just lived in a world where that international championship main evented All Out. Gunther has a main event a WWE pay-per-view.
Mhm.
So that's why I said, more important was the international title, just because of that, for sure.
Because you can definitely see, Orange Cassidy main eventing was, you could see yes, he definitely should main event, right?
Right.
I don't know if there's another, you're right, with pay-per-view that Gunther main eventing will make as much sense.
Yep. Right. Yep. Good question, though. Really, really good question. If you guys have an answer, give it to us. Of course, you give it to us on Twitter, on our YouTube. Let us know what you guys think. Who's had the better reign?
After you give us a 5-star.
Yeah, give us a 5-star too, and leave a comment. I do all that kind of good stuff.
For sure.
So Jey's on Raw. We knew it after the pay-per-view first night. What you guys think?
Oh, dog. It's like in high school, I'm not even gonna throw gangs out there. So you repping something, and now something happened, and you got to go to another school.
He definitely was a Crip and Blood territory.
I didn't want to say that. Or the opposite of blood in the Crip territory.
That is for sure.
Sheesh.
You just forget how many people the bloodline is screwed over until that moment. You was like, damn, he got beef for him too. Damn, he got beef for him too. Damn, him too. Yeah, he's got his hands full. But man, do they have a ton of places they can go between now and Mania season for him with some really good TV?
That was refreshing because I'm still a little I think all of us are kind of like, what's happening right now? But the silver lining in this very moment in that is we can go many different ways over these next several months with Jey because of just that.
Man, Jey brought like a party atmosphere to that show. Like, right? He got that crowd hype.
Yep.
That little, like the little crowd wave. That's what you do at the party, right? Like, like it was really exciting to see. Like the energy was infectious. I felt it, through the TV screen. And we talked a while back, like, yo, does Jey really have it to be main event? And damn it, he looked like it.
It's time for him to show and prove. Yep, it's time for him to show and prove.
Because I was telling you guys, like, look, I got to see more than just a promo for me to kind of start changing. Like, for me, like, I'm a Uso guy, but for me, I felt like, man, it's not main event Jey Uso, it's uppercard Jey Uso. Like, he might legit be main event Jey Uso, right? Because he has a connection with that crowd. And it's special. And it's great to see. I can see Jey Uso right now challenging Seth for the world championship, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if he won, like, right? I mean, he has that type of momentum that I think he can carry and be a different type of champion that we're used to. I thought it was great. I know, Matt, that you said, I don't know if it was I get them all blurred if it was text on X, right? I'm trying to change my vocabulary on text or on X, and that like Jey was blown up by the time he got in the ring, right?
That boy, he was huffing and puffing. So if you are going to go for the world title, I'm gonna need you to hit the Stairmaster a little bit, Jey, and just like do your song while you're on the Stairmaster, so you do not blow yourself up from the excitement when you get into the ring. Jey got that microphone; he didn't know what to do. Jey said, "Whoa, I've been wanting to do this for a while, y'all.
Yeah,
hold on a second."
He remind me of a pastor after he just did a sermon. He's got to. It's time to come back down. Gotta get that.
But I like that though. I thought that was real. Like, right, no, when you that excited, you get blown up in the moment. Like that's legit. I love that from him.
You didn't get blown up. You didn't get blown up doing an Iron Man match with somebody like Bryan Danielson.
He never been blown up in the ring. He got blown up from waving his hands.
He was hyped. He was emotionally blown up. Jesus, he was emotionally blown up. I love that.
So are we so two things that I think maybe we can guarantee / be in agreement on. One, KO's gonna powerbomb the hell out of Sammy.
Elephant in the room. Say it.
Okay, are we agreeing that this is it for KO and Sammy?
I just know when they got Uzi back together again, I'm like, KO ain't gonna like this at all. KO allowed a lot of stuff to happen in this last year in 2023 when it came to the bloodline and Sammy. He gave him his space. He tried to encourage him. He's gonna come back and he's gonna be like, "What are you doing?" He's powerbombing both of them. How about that?
I gotta tell you guys something. I don't want to see that. I don't think they want to see that either, man. We done seen them dudes fight each other for years. I hope that's not where we're going. I would rather them kind of, we got a trade coming up. I would rather see them split them up in that trade than see them feud together.
So that was my next thing was we all in agreement, and maybe not for E, but Cody's out of here, right?
Cody's going to SmackDown. He's the trade.
Which makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
Who if you went over there?
Roman.
He did put up on Instagram a photo of, I think it's Roman, and he said acknowledge me. That was on Monday. So it makes perfect sense if you think about this. Cody came out and said, with the little bit of political power he has, he made this trade. Well, if he knew, or not a trade, but he brought Jey to Raw. If he knew SmackDown would ask for him, you can't run anymore, Roman. I'm here now. And of course, at that point now, they throw another obstacle in front of him. Because you don't.
What obstacle is that going to be?
You don't do that match before Mania. That could be a solo feud. Who knows? That could be a Jimmy feud.
That's a long time from now to keep them apart.
I know, right? So
that's a long time, especially on the same show.
Because what you don't need is Jey, Seth, Cody. As of right now, Drew. I think Drew's turning heel soon, though.
I think so too. He's getting a little over it.
Sammy,
we'll get there.
KO. That's a lot of upper echelon faces. But at the same time, too, though, let reports tell it. Internal memos, which they finally updated it. Thank goodness. They have LA Knight as the top babyface on SmackDown, and they have the Street Profits and Bobby as heels. If you remember a few weeks ago, we talked about it. They still had Knight on there as a heel. I'm like, well, that has to change. So, I guess there's still a world where he can still be your top. The trade hasn't happened yet. He can still be your top babyface, and Cody is still there potentially because Knight is the hottest wrestler they have in the company right now, but by far. But when I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. That's Cody. Because if it's up to SmackDown, why would they take anybody else?
Right. It better not be nobody stupid like bringing Miz over. I'll be so mad.
And man, the work he's doing.
Yeah, I'd still be mad though.
Him and John Cena's match last night. Incredible.
First off,
work, Miz.
Who thought of that? The Cena coming out. I mean, I need to know. Internets, get down to it. Who thought of that? And then who thought of the cameraman to follow Cena?
Stu earned his money. Stu earned his money on Monday. Yeah. That man did the perfect John. I guess that shows how often he's shot it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he did it perfectly. Man, I loved it.
Yeah.
Miz is on the roll right now. He's really, I don't know who he's like feuding with. So is he feuding with Cena?
John Cena.
Because he beat him? I don't know. Like, he's done with LA Knight now, right? Because wasn't Monday I
don't think they're done. I don't think that Cena and Knight are done.
You don't think Cena and Knight are done, or Miz and LA Knight?
I think we might get some type of a three-way or something with them, because obviously if Miz is still throwing shots at Cena, right? Because Cena came back to kind of put a rub on like the new guys that need additional rub, right? And Miz don't need another rub. Miz is the Miz. So I think that I don't think they're done. I don't think Knight and Cena are done with each other. I think Miz is going to be like the heel in the middle, to kind of take some of the heat off Knight. I don't think they're
done. Okay. Interesting. Really, really interesting. So let me ask you guys, Shinsuke is offered another title match by the title holder that won clean at a major main event match, and Shinsuke turns him down and then cuts a promo saying because he wants to hurt his back more. That didn't make sense.
Okay, so Shinsuke not accepting it makes more sense, believe it or not, to me than Seth giving him another rematch. Even though I'm talking out of both sides of my neck, because I just said Gunther is going to give Gable another shot, which I still stand strong on that thought. To me,
that's cool. You can stand strong and be wrong. You've done it plenty of times.
Don't do that.
You've done it plenty of times.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's unbecoming of you. Don't do that.
Done it plenty of times.
Anywho's, you made me lost my train of thought. Point is that the Seth part kind of confused me. I think Shinsuke is more of, no, I'm in your head. I'm playing mind tricks on you.
I hated that.
The Seth part, I kind of like, that's landing a little bit weird for me.
I hated it. E, what'd you think?
No, I agree with Rhodesia. That's what I was going to say. I think that Nakamura is playing mind games with Seth. Like, yeah, we gonna do this, but we're gonna do this on my time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I ain't ready to do it because like what he wants to do, you think about it with Nakamura. He's trying to play mind games with him as well, right? With the whispers, I know it's around your back. Bringing up his wife and the kids. He's doing all this to get a psychological edge over him, not just a physical edge, right? So it kind of makes sense within the story that he's trying to, when you think about you're trying to get somebody off their game, he's trying to get Seth off his game so he can come in and not only dominate him physically, but try and dominate him mentally too. So it makes sense from a heel perspective because you also got to think about this. These guys are bad guys, so they got to do some despicable things. They can't do it the honorable and the right way. He has to be dastardly and be that evil guy. So I think he's doing a good job. I kind of get it.
I get everything you just said. I get everything both of you have just said. If the finish of their match at Payback would make sense for Shinsuke to get another title opportunity, why are you turning down a title opportunity when you lost clean? There is not a rematch clause that says that you were getting another match. That's where it doesn't make sense at. You lost clean. The title holders is challenge you to another match and you say no. Then why would you get another shot?
Well, here's the thing. If it was that easy to get one, you think he's not going to get another?
And that's where I guess we got to throw out some of the logic. But to me, that's just not logical. It's not logical.
My look, it's like he at this point, like not gonna be like, yo, I got you right here. I got you right where I want you.
And here's what I'm thinking too, and I can't quite remember. He
My
never
fingers pointing, but y'all.
Did he? Was his attachment ever really to the title, or was attachment only ever to Seth?
No, he wants the championship.
He wants
the champion. That's
so
why
he has mentioned that
kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, like so that I didn't like that. I was like, okay, y'all could have came up with something better, or at least have the finish make sense. It's the main event of the show, so you don't want to finish on a DQ finish or something like that. But if it was a finish where both were protected, or when the match was over, you could see like, oh, this feud isn't over yet. We knew the feud wasn't over probably just because what's next for Seth? Not anything that happened in that match. So I didn't like that. I do like we are getting Raquel and Rhea next week with Judgment Day bar from ringside. Right. Now we know why the match wasn't the best at Payback. They were holding some things back. So I am excited for that. Now I'm going to assume we're going to get on Monday what I thought we were going to get on Payback.
That is next week. This next Raw.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Man, I gotta be honest, y'all. I mean, I don't think them holding back for pay-per-view had anything to do with why that match might have been lackluster in your mind. But I think that the second match will be better than the first. Right? I mean,
Probably the same with Shinsuke and Seth, too. Now knowing they're running it back.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be better. Because, these people are some pros, man. They'll figure out. I think there was a couple of miscues in the women's match that I don't think will be there on the next one.
I just didn't think Raquel was truly cleared, but I wouldn't imagine the WWE would let her wrestle if she wasn't cleared.
She's cleared. Yeah,
I mean, maybe, and also cleared. Just ring rust, or isn't this a saying that thank God I never had a broken bone, that sometimes mentally you psych yourself out of your best performance because you're worried you're going to hurt yourself again?
Match just wasn't the best. It was fine. It was just there. But now, like I said, we know why it was just there. They were holding some things back for next week. Speaking of next week, oh boy, am I here for this. Oh boy. NXT next week. Tiffany Stratton versus Becky Lynch in the main event.
Oh, it was announced.
It was announced. Tiffany defended her title, and then Becky showed up and said whatever she said, and hey, next week it's on. Yeah. I am so looking forward to that.
What was that?
So looking forward to that.
Oh, wow! This is the first time me hearing of it. Great. This is like those opportunities of someone who's younger, like Tiffany Stratton. All right, I'm in a ring with a professional, a veteran who knows how to go in the ring. It's time for you to upgrade, sister.
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for that. Mm-hmm. Rhodesia, I know you actually had a question you said on last pod. You had like a woman's question, so that's a great segue for you.
Yeah, I had a couple things too about Raw and the women. I think this will lead kind of all into that. Just really quickly on Shayna and Zoe, do we think that this is going to turn into a tag team at some point between the two of them? Or was this a one-off? Because it's something that was undeniable about how kind of just tenacious both of them are. And it's kind of hard to get that. And when you get that like authentically, you kind of got to put that in a bottle.
Yeah, I put on Twitter new, next women's tag team champions. But I don't know if I truly believe that. I think the story was more just a mutual respect type of thing. I would love for them to be a tag team. I would. But I don't know if that's best for Zoe right now. And is Shayna a face? Is Zoe a face?
We don't know.
Do we know? Like,
we don't know.
We're going to assume so, right? Like, Trish was a heel. Ronda was the heel.
Yep.
They're coming off of fighting heel opponents. They give each other mutual respect in the match. So that seems to be a face. I don't know. They got some work to do to make Zoe come across like a face. She's just to me, she's just a badass heel. Is how she comes across.
I think Shayna is too. I mean, Shayna, I think, is more versatile and moving her. I think Shayna could be more believable as a face. But actually, whatever. It doesn't matter. E, what's your thoughts on the two of them? Did you get a chance to see their interaction, their match?
Oh, yeah. I watched it.
What'd you feel?
Man, I was so bored.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So the final elephant in the room. Is there any truth behind it or what? When Chelsea in her backstage and it came up that Piper is hurt. Is that legit?
No, she's not hurt. No, she just has an illness. I mean, who knows? Maybe she caught COVID. They're saying she'll be back like really soon.
Okay. Because I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Okay. Because even Chelsea called it the tag team was it jinxed or what she said?
Curse. Not curse.
Yeah, it's not curse.
All right. Well, so I want to get. I had a Twitter question. How y'all like that? Let me pull it up. I don't really operate Twitter like this, but okay. I got a Twitter question from Country Cousin at Green Devontae 93. So random, but I need more response to your great answer for not holding women's wrestling to a different standard. I think if you list the WWE women, the current top, they're better than the men. The women are better and they're underused. No way Bayley or Flair should feel stale. Can I get this debate? The women are better. So I personally haven't had enough time to like really think this through because I wanted to be fair to y'all because I'm going to ask y'all this question as well. I did before the show kind of just put up what I thought would be like the top women of WWE and the top guys of the WWE. And based off of what we've talked about over the last several weeks, booking, what we've been presented on them, overall, do you feel that these top women in totality are better than the men or vice versa? And for women, I have Io Sky, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Bayley, Becky Lynch, Rhea Ripley.
Whoa, you got too many. We supposed to just remember these folks?
Okay, I could do it
if
again.
We're doing a comparison?
Because I mean, this is how many
good.
top women I think we have.
Go ahead, I'm good.
Again,
I'll follow you.
After Rhea Ripley, Asuka, and I just threw Zelina in there because I think they're trying to make her to be a top woman. I don't quite feel that yet, but I'm just going to put her there out of respect. Then on the guy side, I have Roman, Cody, Gunther, Seth, Drew,
Gunther,
Sammy, KO, Brock Lesnar, and LA Knight. Of course, these are singles. These are not tag teams because I probably maybe could have. No, I was going to put Street Profits. Never mind. So this is kind of what I have as the top men, top women of WWE. I personally feel the women that I named as a whole kills the guys, but you look at your Roman, your Cody, your Brock, and it's almost like, but there's no comparison to them. So that's kind of where I land. As a solid overall, I think the women roster is stronger. But when you look at the men and what they have done and moved the needle, it's kind of hard to argue that. Now, of course, they've also been booked and been produced that way and been storyline written that way. But I think overall women is better, but you just got like 3 heavy hitters on the men's side. What y'all thinking?
You want me to go?
Yeah,
Are
go
you
ahead.
still thinking? So I'm a fan of a lot of those women, especially Bianca, Sky. But you got to think about how many potential match of the year candidates that we have from a lot of those men. Not just with Brock, Cody, Roman. We just talked about Gunther and Gable and even some of the Logan Paul and Ricochet and a lot of these matches that really are some show-stopping matches. And I don't, outside of the Becky and Trish match that we just recently got, and we talking about, we had a whole last feud that's last for 2 years with them. That me as a fan, as much as I like both of those women, it's just hard for me to get into it. Something just didn't click. I gotta say, when we talk about wrestlers, even like a Bayley, I've seen her in multiple matches on TV, and the matches just was there. I think a lot of the matches that those women have been having on TV, for the most part, on average, are just there. Now, are those women stars? Yeah, but when I think about, a lot of these men are stars too. And, they're not going like a Seth Rollins is going with the right opponent, or Cody has gone. Now, you want to talk about opportunity and creative. I think that's where the biggest miss for the women's division, which is why I call for somebody to have a specific singular focus for them, to write for them, so they can get more entertaining stories. Because I think that if anytime you got the same people writing maybe 2 segments in a show, it's kind of, and they get limited time to show what they can do, it's kind of hard. But I just feel like, when we talk about, even on AEW, like the banger matches that you guys talked about, those weren't women matches. We had a great match on the All Out card, right? Ruby, Soho, and Chris, and we skipped over that match. Like, right? That's where I think about where women's wrestling is right now. I just think there's just so many men ahead of them that, we talk about Kenny and I'm about to call him Shibata, not Shibata. What's my man who beat Kenny just now? What's his name?
Takeshita.
Like in that knee. Like, like who giving knees like that in the women's division? I mean, there might be a couple. Actually, Mandy Rose had a nice knee too. God rest her soul. God rest her soul. But for me, it's just the men. I think that the women, maybe haven't been given the same spotlight, but I'm going with the men.
Before you go, Matt, I kind of agree there what you were saying too, but I'm looking at kind of my list, and I'm privileged to the ones I just written down, so I can go back and look at it. We talked about Rhea this year having a great match with Charlotte. How about Becky having a great match with Trish? And that's like my top 4 or 5 possible matches of the year. I don't know I can say that on the guy side. Of course, Roman and Cody, WrestleMania night 2, but that I think is just something completely different. I don't know if I would say the same as far as my favorite matches of the year. I think there is more women matches of those ones I named than men matches. Well, go ahead, Matt.
It's a sliding scale.
Oh, Matt's praying right now.
No,
Hey,
it's a sliding scale.
Okay,
One is
he was
not.
out.
One is not indicative of the other. So when you're talking about the women, there's not a lot of women wrestlers on WWE's roster. So you can't even talk about, like, the question would have to be maybe who shows up bigger in big matches, but give me your top 4 guys outside of Roman. Roman's not on TV weekly.
So looking at this, I'm gonna have to just go off of what we have is Cody.
No, I'm talking
Seth,
about for you. So you got Cody, you got Seth,
Gunther,
and
then just because right now LA Knight.
take LA Knight out.
Okay. Is Brock? Does he compare? I mean, is he up for debate at this point?
No, just because he's not on TV right now.
And then I would have said Drew, but Drew hasn't been on TV enough this year. That's the point that I'm getting at. That there's more solid
but
women.
we have Seth, we have Cody. Who's your third one you said?
I said Gunther.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can also go with, you can go with Sammy.
But I don't think
you can go with one of the Usos, or you can go with Jey.
You gotta go with Jey.
I'm just looking at, what I'm looking at is people that work every week on TV. That's what I'm looking at. It's hard to compare this. It's hard to have this conversation when they work every single week on TV. And when's the last time Becky's worked a televised match outside of Zoe or Trish? I really can't remember. When's the last time we've seen Charlotte work weekly TV? She doesn't right now.
But that doesn't gauge the caliber of the wrestler themselves. That's just
it does.
how they got.
But it does because it does gauge the caliber, because that's my point. If you can't, if Kenny was back in New Japan, Kenny worked 4 times a year and that's it. Kenny is going to walk away as being the best wrestler in the history of wrestling every single year, because he only has to wrestle 4 times. So if you look at the women, they don't get the proper opportunities to wrestle every week. So if their only matches are big pay-per-view matches, it's going to look like, not that they're better than what they are, but it's going to look like they maximize their time better than what the men do. And that's just not true. The men get more time on TV. So it's hard to compare. So like that question by itself, I understand what he's saying, and shout out to him for sending that question. I understand why he's saying that. But to me, like that answer is like an incomplete until either one, the women are in more programs on TV, or until they bolster the women's roster. Then you can look at it and compare it to say, oh, okay, well, Becky's worked 12 matches in the last 2 months, and so has Seth. Now we can compare. But if Seth is working 14 matches in a 3-month time span and Becky's working 2, it's incomplete. The answer is incomplete, because I only have 2 matches to go off of. And say if one of those matches don't go off great, now it looks like Becky sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Opposed to one match not going off great with Seth. Yeah, but he's got these other 13 bangers that were incredible. So it's hard to say. Now, do I think if you were to ask me, hey, legit, I'm starting a new wrestling promotion, and I get the pick of the litter from the top women's wrestlers or the top guys wrestlers, I'm taking Roman out, and Roman's just take Roman out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a world where I'm taking Bianca first. There's a world where I could be taking Charlotte first. There's a world where I could be taking Rhea first. There's a world where I could be taking Io second or third.
But that's the
Bayley,
point that I'm making.
Second or third. Right. But
I feel that way. I feel that if you're looking at just this crop that you have one crop or the other, because of those women that I just named there and I'm looking at right now, to me, I think that they would absolutely kill it. Whereas the guys, you got Roman, taking Roman out. You got Cody, who again, I can't take him out because he is on TV every week. So he's that heavy hitter over there. But besides Roman and Cody, the women I feel kill it. To that point of that you mentioned, if I have started my own company today, like I would imagine if we could fast forward time and then come back in time, if these women were on Impact, where we know Impact champion women's wrestling,
mm-hmm.
and to see how that compare there than it does right now in WWE for the top guys. That
would be a much more fair conversation.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because
But it's
for me,
not-
I'm thinking. I think if you were to right now, and this is no shock. I like I said, I want more from women in wrestling. I want more opportunities for them. I want better creative. But I think if you, like I said, if you were to take a pay-per-view, like, okay, on Friday, I'm gonna have an all women pay-per-view, right? All the top girls, and they're gonna have a banger of a match, right? You match them all up, and you have one on the men's side, right? Put the top guys against each other. Like, who do you think will come out and have the better show?
Well, that's
Like
not
right
fair
now.
because we already know that
Why
there's
not?
there's misogynistic people out there. There's men out there that will not support certain, and there's women too. But just
Well,
in
I mean
general,
us.
there's more.
Let's
no,
just say us.
he's asking you.
Oh,
He's asking
I'm talking
you who
to
has the
us.
better show.
Yeah,
And
us.
the men will have the better show.
Yeah, they would, because again, I think one of the valid points that Matt made is that because we see them more, they're on TV more. So I have a better chance of growing an attachment to the guys than I would the women, just because that's what I'm seeing.
I mean, just right now, like if you were to take, like, because the question was like, we have these women, he matched up against the guys, like there's more women, but if you were to put a show together, like the men, we think might put on a better show, right? Cause we just saw on Payback that, and I actually didn't mind the Rhea and Raquel match, right? But we thought the match just was there.
It was fine. Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine.
Nothing to write home about. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. It was
But
there.
unfortunately, and this is because we also have a smaller sample size of women matches, but I would say on average, most of the women matches are fine. Like, right? Like we got a couple of bangers. Like I said, great match out of Trish and Becky. We had I think Bianca and Io was another fabulous match. Like, right? But Charlotte and Rhea was another one. But those are kind of spaced out. And there's a lot of things that happen in between that. And a lot of times they're just fine. Now, it's kind of hard. Like I said, it's a smaller sample size, and we see more guys wrestling. You were going to see some duds maybe from the men too, because it's more of them to see. But
and that goes back to presentation. We typically get one women's match a week.
Yeah,
across
and maybe
AEW and WWE.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, per show.
Actual match, yes, but again, with the Judgment Day and Rhea being such a huge presence, we see her throughout the show. But let's take her out of it.
Every time we see her, she's feuding with the guys.
Yeah. Take her out of it. Take her out of it. Right.
She's
There's one women's match.
Yeah. So there's one women's match typically on Raw and SmackDown. There's one women's match on AEW.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's one on Collision. So you're talking about 4 matches between the 2 major companies compared to probably 4, 8, 12, 16 or 20 men matches a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's hard to compare. If there's anything that Triple H can work on, it is doing better by the women. I am sure, and I haven't done it. Maybe I'll do it. If I was to go back and look at Raw shows, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, with the matches, I guarantee you was more women's representation in terms of matches before than it is now.
But I almost feel like you look at the women's Raw division right now. This is what I was bringing up. Like, I just feel like it's kind of stale. It's very top heavy with Rhea. Like, right, she is not just a dominant woman. She's like one of the faces of Raw. Like, right, like I might even argue after Cody, like Rhea's right there with Seth as far as like powerful personalities on that show. Then you got Trish and Becky, right, who had type of feud, but I can't think of who's the next challenger for her. Like, right, because like Becky is feuding with Tiffy. Mm-hmm. Like, who's next that's credible for Rhea that you can think that's going to really challenge her for the championship? Like, right, who do you think is going to be next? Is going to give her a great match in that division? Because I'm seriously, I don't know who's going to give her. Because here's the thing: like we talk about how great Rhea is, but it takes 2. Like, what's the next woman on that roster that's going to challenge her and not maybe hold her back from really shining in that ring?
And unfortunately, that's not the fault of the talent. That's presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's because of how Rhea's been presented. If she's taking on guys and body slamming guys and suplexing guys, it's hard then to put her in there with a quote unquote normal female and think that person has a chance. But then they also don't have anybody hot either. The only people that's hot, in my opinion, we just saw them wrestle each other for the SmackDown title, or I guess that's what it's called now, right? Now Charlotte, Io, Bianca, Asuka. You take those 4 out, and I don't know what else you really have right
And
now.
they're on SmackDown.
As constructed. Yeah. Yep. They got to be better. They got to be better, and hopefully it happens sooner rather than later, for sure. So, what else y'all got before we get up out of here?
That's about it. I would say we had a really good 2 weeks of wrestling overall. A lot of stuff, a lot of great matches. We were in attendance for a lot of it. Just again, it doesn't go on me unnoticed as far as how privileged we are to want to talk about the stuff that we talk about here and to watch what we watch on TV. So that's it.
What y'all looking forward to this week?
I was thinking about that. For the first time in a long time, I am not looking forward to anything Bloodline related on SmackDown.
Oh, damn.
To be honest, seriously, I'm not. Now, if they said Roman returns, okay, maybe. But I'm not looking forward to anything Bloodline related. I would probably most be looking forward to... it would be the fallout from All Out. Like, now that we got through this show, okay, now give me what we can expect for storylines. We know that they're having the tournament to see who MJF's contender is going to be for, I think, Arthur Ashe. But for me, that's kind of what I'm most looking forward to, is actually tonight on Dynamite and Collision, just to see now how everything is a full week removed from Punk being there.
Well, I was going to bring it up at All Out Combo, but I am looking forward to see where we're going to go. Hopefully we see it this week, if not next week, whenever we'll see it. But hopefully we see it this week. The video package we saw for Los Ingobernables and how Roosh is going to come back. Like, I'm excited.
yeah.
And it was in Zero Dark Hour. I can't get the name of it. The pre-show. What was it called?
Zero
Dark 30? 0 Hour.
Zero Dark 30.
That was a movie, I think. Point is...
And it wasn't even called that, but yes.
It was. It's called Zero Dark 30. Okay.
So.
Anyways, Los
I think you got the
Ingobernables.
words right. I just think that the order of the words is wrong.
Point is zero hour.
Right.
They had a video package.
No, it was.
For,
No, it was
for
Zero Dark
Roosh. See, I told you.
30. Yep, my bad. Sorry.
Roosh.
I cannot wait to see, because they've had a couple videos and now we had another one that was on the 0 hour. I want to see where that's gonna go.
Man, Roosh did a great job. But when they just kept zooming into the faces of like bands,
hokey, right? Seemed a little
man,
hokey.
that was so hokey. Like that kind of killed it a little bit for me, man. And then all of a sudden, the family laughing out loud, right? They think it's supposed to be a joke. Like, I don't think it's supposed to be a joke, man. That was just some bad production right there. But for me, I guess I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm hoping that Collision continues to be one of the standout shows for me.
I think it will, though.
I hope so.
I think it will.
Because no TK slander, but he has a lot of faith in Brian, right? And I'm hoping, because sometimes we like people who are like us, like, right? You like people who have similar interests, etc. Hopefully, the reason why he likes Brian's booking so much is because it's similar to his own booking. And if that's the case, then
I don't think that's the case, man. And I'll tell you why. I remember years ago when he was still with WWE, Vince was looking at him as being somebody that could be on like the creative team because he thought Brian's mind was that good. And we know Vince and Tony Khan got completely different booking philosophies. So I think he's probably more on what you are looking for. And that also could be why Collision is more of our show, is because he may have much more influence over there.
And I heard he does. I heard he's a big part. He was always been a big part of the creative. So
But I
But
think
hey, right before we leave out, so if he's going to be the main focus on Collision, and he's part of the
BCC.
Yeah, like how does that work?
I thought about that, but remember, they told WBD that the soft split is over.
Yeah.
So maybe
That's-
the BCC
that's
works
problematic,
Wednesdays
too.
and Saturdays.
And I thought he was going to be out of it, the BCC, but he was still rocking with them. So we shall
You
see.
don't see.
So we shall see. And then just real quick, the second thing I'm most excited about is to see just what's next for LA Knight, and then another week of the Profits and Lashley. So we'll revisit that. We talked about that on the last show, but we'll revisit that after we get another week. And now that allegedly internally the Profits and Bobby are heels, let's see what SmackDown looks like, and then we can talk about Montez not figuring out how he's supposed to act yet as a heel.
MVP, save us, man. P, save us.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys as always. That's a wrap for us in this episode. Thank you guys for listening. I did not shout out the socials. Let me do that real quick. Twitter, that's FNW. Instagram, that's FNW. YouTube, that's Freakin Wrestling. It is all there. So a ridiculous amount of wrestling over the last couple weeks. And it ain't stopping no time soon. But football season is here now. I am repping my Lions shirt. I hope next time we talk to you guys, the Lions are 1-0. Because we need it. You
see Travis Kelce knee or his hemorrhoid. I said his hemorrhoid. Oh my God.
On that note, as always, we'll see you guys next time. Hemorrhoids. Jesus.